Good afternoon, Indiana Kentucky Conference. My name is the Reverend Chad Abbott, and I am the conference minister for the Indiana Kentucky Conference of the United Church of Christ. I'm coming to you live from my offices, the IKC offices here in Indianapolis, and I'm also joined by the Reverend Nikki Shaw, who was one of our delegates for our most recent General Synod. Today actually is beginning a series of videos we're going to do every Wednesday at noon. And you may have been used to me coming live during the pandemic to you live to offer a pastoral word. We're kind of taking this next step in Wednesdays at noon to share with you a little bit about our experience at General Synod. Our General Synod is our every other year United Church of Christ gathering, national gathering, and we have a slew of delegates that came from the Indiana Kentucky Conference, of which both of us were a part of that delegation. And so during that time together, Nikki, I know that you remember we had just a powerful and transformative experience with one of our keynote address speakers, Valerie Kaur, who wrote the book See No Stranger and shared with us and in her time with us on her project called the Revolutionary Love Project. There's this wheel, right, that comes with the Revolutionary Love Project. Yep, Nikki's got it right there. And we are going to go through this project of the next 9 weeks at noon for 10 minutes with somebody from our delegation for General Synod to talk about one word on that wheel, and today will be wonder. So Nikki, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, and maybe after you introduce yourself, share a little bit about your experience of Valerie's speech, because I think that's where we begin, and we'll share a little bit of Valerie's videos here in a minute.
Yeah, so I'm Nikki Shaw. I'm a pastor at First Congregational United Church of Christ in Angola, up in the big old northeast corner of the state here in Indiana. And I'm also the communications director for the IKC, as well as the Heartland and the Illinois South conferences. So it's been really interesting to experience Synod as a delegate this year as both a pastor and a representative of the conference. And Synod, this is my second time as a delegate, is always a moving experience, but something really interesting happened during this particular keynote. I think all of us were kind of a little curious about how this all virtual Synod would go. And what was so impressive to me was that when Valerie was speaking about her Revolutionary Love Project, our text thread that we had between all our delegates was blowing up. Everybody was feeling some way about it, right? They were having these big emotions and coming up with ideas and already looking forward to ways to incorporate her orientation toward transformative love and relationship. So it was really moving. And I think, Chad, we had talked about this when it was happening, in our capacity together as staff members here at IKC. We've got to share this with the conference and encourage people to explore this tool, as well as Valerie's book, See No Stranger, and use it in our own context, because Valerie makes this really compelling case about the way that everything hinges on relationship and the way that love works through these three triads that we have here, both in orientation to others, to our opponents, and to ourselves. So it was electric. It was a very exciting keynote to hear and to act on.
That's the right word. It was definitely electric. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Valerie or didn't get to hear her speak, she is a Sikh American who practices the Sikh religion and faith, and definitely came around the time of 9/11 and after. We're about ready to approach the 20th anniversary of 9/11. She did a lot of writing and reporting and engagement around relationships, as you talked about, Nikki, during that time, and how we often create this relationship of the other from us. And so she really developed this process by which we would see not someone else as a stranger, but as neighbor or friend or sibling, and how to really listen to each other and be attentive. And so she created that wheel where we attend to the other, to the opponent, to ourselves. in ways that are really attentive and listening. And so the first word we're going to really engage with in this time is wonder, but we're going to get to all the other words with other delegates who were at the same synod. But for today, Nikki and I are going to explore the sense of wonder. And I'm going to show a short video that comes from her her video learning hub on her website, and we're going to go from there to sharing together in a conversation. So Nikki, just give me a quick second to share my screen. All right, friends, here we go.
Wonder is something that is not secondary. It is fundamental. It is foundational. It is necessary. Wonder is the building block for love. Here is how I am defining wonder. To wonder is to let in a sense of awe and openness, a sense of deep curiosity. It is to look upon the face of anyone or anything and say, you are a part of me I do not yet know. To wonder about another person is to open ourselves up to their thoughts and experiences, their pains and joys, their wants and needs. It's an orientation of humility. It's recognizing that they are as complex and infinite and vast to themselves as we are to ourselves. Wondering about another person gives us information for how to love them. Wonder is the wellspring of love. Now, when we wonder about people who we would otherwise see as strangers, especially people who are in harm's way, when we let even them inside of our circle of care, then wonder becomes an act of revolutionary love.
Boy, there is so much there in that 1 minute little clip, and Nikki, she starts with the wonder. This is a great place to start all of these conversations on Wednesday. Wonder is the building block of love, and so say more about what your experience of her speech and of what she just said is to you.
Right. There's something about just the visual model that she's worked out here and the way that we move from one step to another that's really compelling to me. And I love that we're starting on wonder and I love that she identified it as the foundational block, because it really is the one word on here that allows us to enter a space of openness. When she was talking about that and also representing herself honestly, as a Sikh woman who became a lawyer, who went to law school and also divinity school, it was really kind of an embodied way to wonder more about her and to see how her own practice of wonder, of openness and curiosity led her into all these different paths and to be in relationship with a bunch of Christians, right, in this way. But what I think is most salient about the word wonder, and she hits on this in her definition, but it brings us back to that childlike place, the place that Jesus calls us all to be in order to gain the kingdom, which is really just revolutionary love in action on earth, right? To be in the kingdom means to all be wondering about each other, not judging. And I think it's the one sense of openness that we need to start from. It's really grounding.
Well, the grounding that I heard in what she was saying was that like to have curiosity about someone, and not just someone you love, but maybe even someone you might consider an opponent or a stranger or an other, even though those are spaces we don't want to necessarily always inhabit. But if we have that frame, to come to someone with a sense of curiosity, not judgment, not fear, not the space where we're coming from a negative already, but simply saying what I love. She said this a lot in her speech, which was the approaching someone as that part of ourselves that we do not yet know.
Yeah.
And if we can see other people, no matter who they are, as a part of ourselves, then we actually have to really be attentive to them, and we have to really be empathetic and compassionate and listen. And so much of what we're experiencing in our culture right now, whether that's the COVID vaccine and pandemic, or whether that's politics, or whether that's faith and religion, our schools are dealing with all of this stuff around masks. All of that division I've been wondering how different those things might look if we started from that space that she's talking about of curiosity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that part of what is really beautiful about that, you are a part of me that I do not yet know, is that we know that's true, right?
Right.
Science shows us that the pandemic itself is teaching us that, what we do and how we take our own health seriously affects people around us. And we know that about our ecosystems. We know that about our politics, right? Everything is political. What we do and what we decide to do and how we vote has an effect on other people. So it hits on a universal truth, right? That we really are connected. And if I can, would I judge my own hand, right? And be like,
Right.
sorry, you're other than me. No. So having this like connection as a body of people and entering
Well,
curiosity.
and that's an interesting image you just provided, because that's very biblical. I mean, if you think
Yeah,
about Paul in First Corinthians chapter 12 talks about the hand can't say to the foot, "I have no need of you,"
exactly.
and that framework leads to that we are the body of Christ and all members of it. Paul's chapter 12 leads to that great love chapter of 13, which is where
Right.
Valerie is going here, which is if we can see ourselves as part of one another, then we have the foundation of love, and it all begins with curiosity. Well, Nikki, it is great to have you with us here, and we will have another Synod delegate with us next week. But it was so good to begin with wonder and friends. If you are a part of the Indiana Kentucky Conference and you were unable to see Valerie's speech or to know anything about Valerie and her work, Nikki has provided all of the links and information on our Facebook page for you to go and explore that. All of the other words will be really uncovering during these weeks that are ahead of us. All of those are also available on the Learning Hub on Valerie's website. You could engage your congregation in a sermon series or a book study or some sort of spiritual roundtable group that might be able to explore it a little deeper. Or maybe you just want to show up here on Wednesdays at noon for 10 minutes with myself and another General Synod delegate. But Nikki is 100% right. We came home different, having heard her speak. And you can understand why some of these words are critically important for how we lead churches and how we lead our communities. Nikki, great to be with you. Great to be with you, Indiana Kentucky Conference. And we'll see you next week at noon.